Green Arrow, issue 11,
Mm-hmm.
Legacy 344, Joshua Williamson writing with Sean Isaacs, Eric Gaspar, and Phil Hester on
Mm-hmm.
the art. So, a lot of artists there, Matt. Is there something?
Yeah, so they shift perspectives, right? So we go
Okay.
from the Arrow family fighting the Justice League to Merlin being revealed as the person behind all of this, to his origin, which is done by Phil Hester, which is nice because I like when
Mhm.
they're playing with the timeline, not timeline, the time frame that most of the stuff in the past that's happened to Ollie is done by Phil Hester, which is a nice thing. Um, but yeah, so at the end of the last issue, the Justice League was attacking the Arrow family. They all come in to help Ollie because it's not the Justice League, right? It's sanctuaries operating, making the Danger Room constructs, um, and they end up pulling the sanctuary mask and trying to get it out. Yet when they get out there, Ollie tells Waller, "Hey, we got what you wanted. You know, now let my family go." And as he's trying to say this, um, he ends up disappearing, and you end up finding out that the stuff that Merlin had done in the first arc to make him time travel to keep him away from his family is still in effect. And we get the origin of Malcolm Merlin, and it dips into the Arrow TV show timeline.
Wait, what?
Um, yeah, so Tommy Merlin shows up here. And Malcolm talks about how he hated that his son was friends with Ollie, and Ollie was everything that he hated because Merlin was able to go from like this performer to almost kind of like a celebrity because of that, and that he tried to provide enough for his son, but then Ollie shows up and is like a bad influence. Um, but that just double downs Merlin on going to train with Ra's al Ghul. And all this stuff looks fantastic by Phil Hester. Like, a character like Ra's al Ghul always, I think, looks cooler when there's these sharp angles on him. And Hester does it. It makes him look more predatory, kind of almost bird-like. Um, and the same with Merlin. So, he talks about that was just a side thing because it allowed him to do the stuff that he liked. And then when Ollie shows up as the Green Arrow, he, is like, oh, I'll train him in the Arrow arts, basically, because Tommy had, followed in his footsteps and became a businessman. But he wasn't doing the kind of field work of business that Merlin was able to do as an assassin, right? He was, doing Wall Street deals and it was boring. So he lost interest in his son, so he looked at Ollie like a son. But that's where they ended up on opposite sides. And then he went to Waller, and Waller gave him the resources to, lose Ollie through time to prove the lesson of, he's nothing without his family. And then so Ollie ends up in this arrow cave with this cybernetic, almost Eclipso looking version of Merlin. He has a half cybernetic face with a purple eye. He's wearing the hood, which I think is always a good look with these Archer characters. Um, and he had finally found his way back from where Ollie had left him. And he finally admits that he's the better Archer. That, through all of this time by himself, lost in time, he has realized that Ollie is that guy. But, he's like, well, so I looked at this sanctuary mask and, I see Roy there, but, you weren't here, why? And Ollie admits that he didn't think that he needed it. So, and he's ashamed of that. And he left his family out to dry because he couldn't work on himself. So what does Merlin do now with the Sanctuary Mask is he creates all of these different versions of the Arrow family. And we get some like old looks for Canary and Arsenal and Connor Hawk. I think Shadow's even in there on the page. And they all start fighting Ollie. And so now, instead of like last issue, fighting the Justice League, he has to fight his own family. Which now this is just becoming like copy and paste storytelling. Like we get Merlin showing back up and his, his own personal hatred of Ollie and what Ollie has done. The jealousy is what has primed everything. But yeah, I'm sure Williamson will work this back into Waller and her plan for absolute power because, outside of Batman, the next biggest hero without powers is Ollie. So I can definitely see her trying to use him as kind of a wedge against the Justice League, especially since he seems to be on the, not at odds with them, but on the outside right now. But yeah, the art by Hester's pretty great. Isaac's art's fine. It's not as crisp as it has been. And then I guess I would leave the Gaspier and as the almost like a pickup artist. He does the couple odd page here and there. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know how much longer now. I thought we were going to get back to like these little 2-issue jaunts of Ollie reconnecting with family members, like the onomatopoeia stuff. That was fun. But yeah, this one was just more time traveling mumbo jumbo. And then you get cybernetic Merlin there at the end and tying into Arrow of all shows. Like Malcolm Merlin was like one of the least good things on that show. And there's not a lot of good things, right? So yeah, all said and done, I'll give this a 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to tie into TV show, it makes sense it would be Arrow because that is a Green Arrow comic. But
yeah, but like I don't know, that version of Malcolm Merlin, the whole business guy who's also an assassin, was always I felt real stupid. Like just make him the Archer dude. Like I don't know why Ollie needed the rich friends aspect of it. So when we got to Tommy, I was like, oh god, this is a character I forgot even existed. Next, I'll expect Thea. Right? That was his sister, right?
That was the sister, yeah. She had the bloodlust after the Lazarus Pit.
Yes. So next we'll see. But hopefully we just have Emmy. Emmy can take that sister role and just more of her. And it's making me realize too that Ollie's might be. He's not my least favorite member of the Arrow family, but he's certainly not near the top. Feels like a lot of the surrounding characters I find more interesting. Like even his son. I like the whole the monk aspect of Connor. So I don't know. Yeah, it is what it is.